Today's opening tip, LaMelo Ball looks antsy here on the bench this weekend. Matt, you think he's missing the game?
Oh, man, he'd give anything to be out there right now. You know, this kid's been having a great season, a lot of hype around him. He's lived up to all the expectations, and this is probably his first major injury he's had to miss games for.
Richard, we were antsy because we thought you weren't going to make the show.
Game time decision.
No, let's be really honest. Like, he's nervous because look at the score. Look at the game. That's what he's stressed about. Is this team going to win? This is not selfishness.
No one's saying it's selfishness.
I'm just making that up. He's just mad he's not playing.
All right, welcome to The Jump. I'm George Sedano, in for our fearless leader, Rachel Nichols. Today, I'm joined by a couple of NBA champs, Richard Jefferson and Matt Barnes. And coming up, Rick Carlisle called Zion a Shaq-type force of nature with a point guard skill set. Is that BS or real talk? The Hall of Famer Jackie Mack will join us to discuss that. But first, some big market teams have made some big moves over the weekend, and that caused NBA Twitter to go up in flames over the weekend with some hot takes. We'll start with the Nets. Because, of course, they're in the zone. Brought to you by AutoZone. Brooklyn is 17-3 in their last 20 games, and they've been adding pieces to the roster all season. After trading for James Harden, they've since picked up Blake Griffin on the buyout market. And over the weekend, the rich got richer as Brooklyn agreed to terms with LaMarcus Aldridge in the buyout market. So here's Nets guard Bruce Brown's reaction, finding all this out on Saturday.
To what's been happening with the team right now, and even more reinforcements coming from a player's perspective, from your perspective. What is that like for you? I know you're locked in on what the task at hand, but how wild is it with the way this roster is shaped out for you?
I mean, we're really good. I just found out that Aldridge is coming. I didn't really know. But yeah, we're really good. We're a talented team. We gotta go out there and play hard every night. Teams are going to play try to play their best against us. So we got to be ready every night.
All right, if you could read lips there, you could figure out what his reaction was to before he actually answered the question. By the way, Kevin Durant responded to fans upset about the Aldridge signing yesterday, writing, quote, "I knew y'all would be here crying and I smell blood in the water, so I'm here to fulfill the prophecy." Here's Blake Griffin on the fans' reaction today. Let's take a listen.
Man, it's kind of funny to me because for the last couple of years, all I've heard is how bad I am. And, you sign with this team, everybody's like, that's not fair. Like, you're like, so it's just people say whatever they want. Like, people don't, I don't really put a whole lot of value in other people's opinions. I trust the people that I trust. If I don't go to you for advice, then I'm probably not going to take your criticism. So I have that circle of people, and I have that group of people that I trust, real basketball people. And that's who I listen to. I can't speak for LaMarcus. I don't know what people have been saying about him, but, that's how I felt when I came here. I was hearing how bad I was, and then now people care for some reason.
All right, we've got plenty to say. So, Richard, what does the Aldridge signing mean for the Nets in the East?
It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. They were already better than everybody else, in my opinion. So all it did is widen the gap even further. So people that are upset, you have a right to be upset because, you might think Philly closed the gap, or maybe Milwaukee was a little bit closer because they got PJ Tucker. But ultimately, it just widened the gap from everybody else in the East.
Looks good on paper, great on paper. All the accolades this team has as individuals is incredible. My two concerns is obviously chemistry is important.
Yeah.
And they're putting all these pieces late in the season together. Obviously, your big three are going to carry that team. But the deficiency they were lacking from the beginning is defense, and that's still something they didn't address. So I think a lot of pressure is going to be on DeAndre Jordan and whether or not he can hold this defense down this season moving forward towards the playoffs.
I'm more with you, Matt. Surprising. I'm not with you, Richard, of course.
Not surprising.
Look, I'm with you. Look, I think their defense is better than most people think. We've seen games against the Clippers and Lakers where they've played good defense, okay? Right. However, LaMarcus Aldridge is not one of those guys that can help you on that end. And when he was the starter, you can roll your eyes and your neck all you want, but when he was the starter for 200-plus minutes with the Spurs, they were minus 15 and a half when he was on the floor.
And Blake Griffin didn't have a dunk for 2 years, and now all of a sudden he's dunking again. You would be surprised how well people play when they're happy and they're in a much better spot. So we want to talk about defense, then let's flip it and talk about their record versus the top teams and their last 20 games and how they've played. They've been absolutely dominant.
They
against
have.
all the teams above 500, so we can keep talking
Richard,
about it.
they're the best team in the East. We're not debating that part of it.
Oh, okay.
Like, from a talent perspective, but I don't know if this signing, to Matt's point, is what they needed.
No, you don't need more weapons.
I just think they're stacking because you never know what the playoffs hold. This team has been in and out with injuries all season. So the more you can stack your roster with quality guys that have been there and performed, the better. But like I said, it's overkill on the offensive end. What are they going to be able to do on the defensive end is my question.
The defensive end is, to your guys' point, the biggest concern because offensively, it's
everybody.
It's an abomination what they have on the offensive end. But let me tell people, and I'll answer Blake's question, and I'll answer. It's not so much that people are looking at this roster and saying that you can't do anything. Normally, those positions are not filled with minimum contracts.
Right.
PJ Tucker. Andre Drummond, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Blake Griffin are on contracts that are for a total of like $8 million.
Right.
That's where you're just like, oh, okay, this is
the game we're playing.
This is the game we're playing.
Right.
That's where it is. It's not that these guys can't do anything and that there's Blake Griffin from the old or LaMarcus Aldridge from old. But I would not be surprised if we saw an uptick in LaMarcus Aldridge's Aldridge's.
Energy.
Oh, for sure.
Is it Aldridge's?
Yeah.
Is that?
I mean, we're way happier when you're not around. It's just
That's
me
what
and
I'm saying.
Matt. You know what I'm saying? So
the
get
energy is far better. So if Blake Griffin, that's funny.
That tickled me.
Okay.
That tickled me.
I just think that when these guys are healthy and happy, we saw with James Harden, we saw with Blake Griffin, and now would we be surprised to see LaMarcus Aldridge playing with a new type of energy? Maybe. No,
and I want to say one thing too, real quick, is we nagged James Harden for his defense for a long time. He's really out here playing defense right now. He's coming in with a fresh slate in Brooklyn, like to Richard's point. He's happy, and he's playing on both ends and playing well on both ends. So I'm excited to see what this team. But like I said, one thing I think fans are underestimating is being able to put all this chemistry together. But when you have that many great players, it's probably not too hard.
Right, and you're asking a rookie coach. I know he has Mike D'Antoni, he has Jacques Vaughn on the staff, but you're asking a rookie coach to make all that happen, which is going to be fascinating. But there were more moves, obviously.
There were?
Let's move on. Yes, there were more moves. Let's move to the West. The other big signing this weekend, Andre Drummond, and the Lakers agreed to a deal for the rest of the season.
Because the Nets were out of roster spots.
Lakers coach Frank Vogel said he expects Drummond to give the team, quote, a big lift in the immediate future. So, Matt, how does the Drummond signing impact the Lakers in the West?
With the trade deadline looming in the buyout market, I think this was the biggest pickup. They needed to fill that void at the center spot. I think people underestimate how important Dwight and JaVale were for this team last year. Their energy, their athleticism, their just ability to plug those little voids. Obviously, signing Marc Gasol, he's never been an athletic guy. He's going to beat you with his mind and his skill, but they needed someone big to out there. Drummond's probably the best rebounder in the game. And I think it's going to be big. But like I said last week, I don't think we're going to see his full potential until you get the stars back. He's not going to come in and be a go-to guy you can load up and get 30 out of every night. That's not his game. I think he's going to plug all the deficiency they had. He's someone that's averaging 18 and 14 without his number being called. So anytime you can add a guy like that to a championship caliber team, it's going to be a plus.
Matt's correct. Like when you lose, and the Denver Nuggets did it also when they added Aaron Gordon and they added JaVale because they lost Plumlee and they lost Jeremy Grant, and they're like, yo, we need those two things, and they went out and got those two things. Probably upgrades in my opinion. If you look at the Jeremy Grant versus Aaron Gordon. With the Lakers and with Drummond, if you're possibly playing against a Joel Embiid, if you're going to have to go against Jokic, like. A Drummond will be very impactful because it makes them guard on the other end. It makes them have to deal with other things. So whenever you're fighting for a championship, and Matt knows this, it's about having all the possible puzzle pieces, all the chess pieces. Like, okay, because we remember in the Houston series, Dwight Howard didn't play much for the Lakers, but then he played a ton against Jokic. So it's all about matchups, and you want to have all the possible pieces so that you can weather whatever storm regardless of matchups.
Well, let's look at it this way, too. Clearly, the Lakers need help right now, right? Because AD is going to be out another couple of weeks. LeBron may be out to the end of April, right? They need help, as much help as possible. They've gotten a couple of wins here against teams that they were better than, and they should get wins again against. So that helps in the immediacy of it. When AD's in the lineup, we know AD, even though he played 60% of his possessions at center, doesn't love playing the center position, right? He'd prefer to have a big man like a Dwight or JaVale there. And everybody knows you put LeBron with any big man who can roll to the rim and finish at the rim, and that's going to be a plus situation there too.
No, it's going to be a great situation, but every single thing that we're referencing, though, is predicated on 100% health. If we're talking about the Brooklyn Nets and them winning a championship, that means KD and their entire roster is healthy. Lakers the same. There's so many teams that it's like, okay, we know Joel Embiid, possible MVP, like, we need him to be 100% healthy. All those things being equal, I still think it goes Lakers, Nets, and then we start lining up.
One thing we're not talking about either is this defensive front line with Drummond and AD and LeBron. That's going to be a hell of a defensive front line come playoff time.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, let's look at some of the possible star-studded lineups the Lakers and Nets could roll out as they potentially face each other. So, Richard, who's the better team on paper, Brooklyn or LA?
I think on paper, it's the Brooklyn Nets. They have more talent. But one thing that everybody knows, especially if you saw the Clippers last year and the discussions, whether it was pre their collapse or post their collapse, was a lot of chemistry issues. That's why they went out and got a point guard, because chemistry plays a huge part. Even the Milwaukee Bucks, there was conversations about they just didn't really want to be in the bubble. They didn't really like it. And it was just, they couldn't really kind of get themselves together. So I look at the Lakers team and they have the chemistry. Most of their pieces are back from the championship year. So I think the Nets are more talented, but the Lakers, with their chemistry, that's their one advantage.
I agree 100%. On paper, if you look at all the individual accolades that the Brooklyn Nets have acquired, it's off the charts. We've probably never seen a team with this many individual accolades. But like RJ said, to me, incorporating one piece is a lot easier than incorporating a handful of pieces, which Brooklyn is having to do. And like I said, Drummond is not someone who demands the ball. Drummond is going to do all the little things and still put up numbers. And the Lakers' core is back where they built a lot of that chemistry.
Well, and I thought your point, Matt, earlier about just the size, right? And these are contrasting styles. The Lakers are not a great three-point shooting team, but they will bludgeon you. And we saw that last year in the bubble. Like, how much of that do you think, though, can be a huge factor if these two teams meet in the playoffs?
It's going to be big. You know, it's going to be really big, and it's hard to go against that trio you have over in Brooklyn, but then it's also you got the best duo over in LA.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of Kuzma's playing really well. Caldwell Pope, these guys are playing well. Schroeder's playing well. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. And the one thing that if you're the Lakers, what you have to do is you have to limit possessions. If you're just saying hypothetically you're playing against the Nets, this is a finals preview.
You don't want to get in this kind of game with them.
You don't want to get in this kind of game, and you want to limit offensive rebounds, because offensive rebounds for them means more three-pointers. And so you almost want to force the Brooklyn Nets to have to play big, because you can hurt them on the glass, and that's why they needed LaMarcus Aldridge. They needed, because let's say hypothetically they were to play against the Lakers, even without Drummond, the Lakers are still a huge team. So like you can already see teams, and you look at Embiid and you see them having to go against Embiid and Joe Harris. We didn't even mention Joe Harris. Joe Harris wasn't even in the damn graphic, and he's the best shooter in the league right now, and has been one of the top 5 shooters over the past 3 seasons. So I like the contrasting styles, and you can see teams loading up on where they are contrasting.
It's a chess game, and if I'm Steve Nash, I love all my pieces I have to play with, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. All right, coming up next, Ja had a pair of
miss league.
Make. Miss.
It's a make or miss league.
Make miracles. Cavs Kings, 1 second left. Kings down 1. De'Aaron Fox inbounding from the opposite baseline. He gets it to Harrison Barnes, who drills the game winner.
Touchdown.
Watch him smack his ass.
And after the game, Fox said he's played QB growing up. So, Matt, which was better, the pass or the shot?
Oh, man, you can't have one without the other. So I think they're both great, but it's huge to hit a game-winning shot, and congratulations to Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, my guy HB, but HB, man, you didn't have to smack Sexton on the ass like, hey, you know what? Nice try there, little fella. Watch it. That was the part when you watch this clip. This is the part that makes me laugh. HB super clear, and then look, watch this. Boom. Yeah. Come on. That's the part that you got to be like, imagine somebody hit the game winner.
Not happening. On me, and
you're
then
mad.
You fighting the track of the ass?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to wait for him by the butt. Having that.
Next, Miss Independence, Sixers Clippers. PG-13 pulls down the rebound, and Danny Green tries to pick his nose.
Oh.
Richard, this ever happened to you here?
Dangerous.
Oh, no. No, you don't want that. Everybody's had that, but not all the way up in the nostrils.
Yeah, I almost got my eye poked out by Zach Randolph in a similar situation, going for a ball, and he stuck his finger like to the back of my eye. So that's dangerous. Luckily, it was just nose. Like those pokes in the eyes are dangerous.
Oh yeah, you don't want that. The nose, everybody knows that's the groin of the face. You gotta,
I don't think anyone knows that, but now they do.
Hey, Dwight Schrute taught me that. I'm just being honest.
All right, there we go. The Office. Who knew it would make the show today? Make audibles. Grizzlies came up short twice against the Jazz this weekend, but it wasn't because of Ja Morant. Look at this pair of ridiculous finishes.
Incredible.
So here's the other one. Matt.
Who is he? Who is? I'm still
It's just, I don't know if we've seen anything like it, but it's unfortunate. He's so talented, but in the guard field West, it's going to be hard to see when he really starts getting his due respect, because this kid's talent is off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, look how long it took Dame, right, to get into the All-Star game and all that
And
stuff.
we used to see that back in the day when you had guys like, when there were so many power forwards, but there was Dirk and there was Tim Duncan and there was, there was. It's like, how do you get in? KG, you get in these guys and these power forwards that were great.
Right.
But it was just like, hey, sometimes you got to pay your dues. That's okay, miss all these one and dones.
Yep.
Okay to pay your dues.
Miss limitations. Suns Hornets. Watch Miles Bridges go way up here. Watch this. Hello, Richard. Is this more impressive than just a regular old dunk?
When you're catching it, look, he's got all the bounce that a human could ever need, and he's playing with Melo. We're going to see a lot of highlights from him for a long time.
Airbnb? Is that their,
yeah, they don't really like it, though.
Yeah, they're fun, man. Like I said, a connection, someone who can pass the ball like LaMelo and a kid that can jump like this. I mean, RJ used to jump like this.
Back in the early 2000s, maybe the 1900s. It's the truth.
It was the 1900s.
It was the 1900s. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to break it to you.
I love that court, by the way, that they play on right now.
A lot of money.
I like this team. Maybe a piece away from really making some noise.
They're fun. They're fun. Make agility. Blazers Raptors. Watch Derek Jones Jr. go baseline. Finish with the ridiculous up and under 360 and 1. So let's take another look. This is just crazy. And then later on, CJ puts the game on ice with these handles. Check this out. Matt, is Portland in your league pass rotation right now?
Absolutely. Portland's a scary team, and they're getting healthy at the right time. I think Norman Powell's going to be a huge pickup for them. Nurkic is coming back. I'm excited to see this team healthy going into the playoffs.
Okay, so Matt and I were talking, and it was my unpopular opinion. Dame and CJ don't necessarily make people a lot better. That's why they need guys like Carmelo Anthony, and that's why they need guys like Powell that can go get their own buckets. And Powell is a great pickup for this team, so I'm excited for the Portland Trailblazers.
It'll be fascinating to see what the West looks like and how it shakes out.
Was I gentle with that?
You were very gentle.
You were gentle. It's fine. They'll tweet at you, though.
I'm not trying to be
critical. But you're not really on Twitter anyway.
I'm not trying to be critical of those guys. I'm just saying there's a reason why they had to go get bucket getters around them.
Okay.
That's it.
Fair enough. All right, coming up, after Zion dropped 38, 6, and 5 against the Mavs, Rick Carlisle said, quote, he's a Shaquille O'Neal type force. All right, that's pretty big praise. All right, so we break down the similarities here. But first, here's what the Jump recommends for today. The Monday Power Rankings are out. How did your team fare?
I see no limits for this team. It looks like we have all the pieces that we need. We have the depth. Looks like we're covered in a lot of different spots, offensively, defensively. And as long as we're all working together, there's no stopping us.
All right, Jackie, is Aaron Gordon saying that he sees no limits for the Nuggets? Is that BS or real talk?
Well, let's start by saying Aaron Gordon was a great pickup for the Denver Nuggets. He's a big athletic wing, which is like gold in today's league. You add Nikola Jokic, who was on an MVP year, a career year, and Murray and Porter Jr., they're both surging at the exact right time. So that's all great. But, I talked to Jamal right before the trade deadline, and his biggest concern was rim protection. He said, we can't keep asking Jokic to do that along with everything else. Guys, when teams are 5 feet or closer against the Denver Nuggets, they shoot over 65%. That's bad. In fact, it's the worst in the league right now. The other problem is, in general, teams shoot 47% against them. That puts you around 22nd in the league. So I like the Denver Nuggets. I think they can get out of the West, but they've got to play better defense, and that's why no limits rings hollow with me. Sorry, they've got to play better defense. And you know what? Maybe Aaron Gordon, who we think of as this big athletic scorer, maybe what his biggest contribution turns out to be a guy that can really help be physical on the wing with those great perimeter shooters in the league. Maybe his biggest impact could be defensively, because that's really what Denver needs if they want to get over the hump.
And he said that he was willing to take on that challenge. All right, let's go to the panel here. BS or Real Talk? Go. Okay, Richard, start with you.
I believe that he believes that. I believe that he believes that, there is no limit. There is a limit if you guys don't do, like Jackie said, what you're supposed to do, and that is protect the rim. You can't ask Jokic, your best player, that's not what he does, right? So my opinion is that what they need to do is they need Aaron Gordon, and they need to sit down and be like, hey, we need you to get blocks. We need you to be a rim protector. And I know that that's not exactly what you do, but ultimately it puts us in a much better position defensively, which will allow us to flourish offensively. So I think it's BS from the standpoint of there is a limit, but it's all based off of what you're able to contribute.
Mine comes with an asterisk.
Okay, that's fine.
That's if the Lakers aren't healthy, the sky can be the limit in the West. But I think, again, to Jackie's point, in something that no one is talking about, they picked up JaVale McGee as well, and he can definitely give them some quality minutes. He was a big piece of what the Lakers' success was last year in the bubble. And then you talk to Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon and let them know what you need on the defensive end. That's a conversation you need to have. These guys need to take pride in locking up the LeBrons and the Kawhis and the Paul Georges that are coming their way. But I like this team, and I think Aaron Gordon fills that void that Jeremy Grant left. I think Jeremy Grant was very undervalued, and he's doing great in Detroit, and I think it's an upgrade to grab Aaron Gordon the way they were able to get him.
See, I think they're way better than they were clearly, but I'm with Jackie on this. I think I need to see it on defense first. I got to see it for a minute before I can go from BS to Real Talk, at least for me. All right, let's change gears here and talk about Zion Williamson, who's been on a tear lately himself. On Saturday, he scored 38 points and dished out 6 dimes against the Mavericks. Here's what Rick Carlisle said what it was like to coach against Zion.
He's an unusual force and obviously a great player. And so, we'll have to figure something a little better out next time. But he's doing this to everybody. Presents huge challenges for the defense and for the officials. He is just creating collisions out there. This is a Shaquille O'Neal type force of nature with with a point guard skill set.
All right, Richard, Carlisle calling Zion a Shaq type force of nature. BS or Real Talk? Oh, good Lord. Go ahead, Richard.
I'm calling BS because he's physically dominant, right? But we can't disrespect Shaquille O'Neal and what he did the moment he came into this league, when this league was littered with dominant centers. Hakeem Olajuwon, they had David Robinson, you had, Karl Malone, you had Patrick Ewing, you had Rick Smith, you had Alonzo Mourning, and he came in there and just dominated him. Now, look, it took him some time before he became Shaq Diesel, but Zion Williamson is a force, but he's not making you fill out your roster with other power forwards yet. And that's what Shaq forced you to do. Is he a presence? Yes. But is he in the Shaq category? We need more time.
I like what Zion doing. Zion is a guard version of what Shaq is doing, and he's one of the only 3 players in the history, if I'm not mistaken, to be 21 years old, having 25 points a game and 60% from the field. So this kid is still a baby. He's only played 60 NBA games, and he's causing havoc already. So, I mean, to me, I don't think it's a disrespect to Shaq. I think he can follow in similar footsteps in kind of a guard version. Obviously, Shaq is the most physical, dominating presence we've ever had, but I love what Zion does. And RJ, you know better than anyone, he doesn't really know how to play basketball yet. He's playing off raw athleticism, energy, and talent. Once he learns the game, year 3, year 4, look out.
Yeah.
Jackie, what do you think?
I think Matt's got it right. This is baby Shaq. We don't need to compare him center to center. Let's not compare apples to oranges or pears to cherries, okay? He is one of the most dominant forces at his position I've ever seen. You talk to coaches, GMs, and even players, and they talk about getting up the next day and feel like they've been run over by a Mack truck. When's the last time you heard that? When Shaq was playing. So that, to me, is real talk. The part that I'm not 100% sold on just yet is I'm not ready to call Zion a point guard. I think he's got great court vision and he makes some really nice plays. And this goes to your points, all of you guys, about the fact that he hasn't played enough yet to call him a point guard. He's averaging 3.5 assists a game. I like the fact how he moves the ball. But let's not, we're not ready to call him Luka Doncic or even Jason Kidd, right?
No, certainly not. Certainly not. But they have put the ball in his hands. That was something that Stan Van Gundy did early this season, and we're seeing the development. To Matt's point, he's a baby at this point, and your point as well, Jackie. Not your point, Richard.
No, but wait. Can I make one last point?
Go ahead, Richard.
I understand. His skill level is next level. It is. And I saw him grab a rebound, dribble it up, clear out a guy, post up, double team, kick out, swing, open shot. Now, that wasn't something that we saw Shaq do. So when Rick was trying to say point guard it was just like you see this guy running, kind of directing their offense. Point forward. So it's like we take so many things literally, and I do that often, especially when I'm trying to criticize people.
Like right now.
But no, I truly think, like Jackie is right, he's got a long way to go before we start calling him like a point guard in that space.
Jackie McMullen, Hall of Famer. Jackie, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
All right, behave yourselves.
Warriors fans' dream, playing for the hometown team. What is that like?
It's amazing, man. It's been a grind to get here, obviously to the NBA, but just to top it off and be able to play at home, that words can't really explain. It's been a lot of fun. I'm able to see my family all the time, which was that was hard for me playing overseas, playing in Mexico and stuff, Argentina, and when I went over to Europe for a little bit, that distance and not being able to see my family for so many months, it was hard.
You're half black, half Mexican. You got your family originally from Michoacan in Mexico. Like, what was that like to play in Mexico because of that?
It was a lot of fun. I really, indulged myself in the culture, just representing the country. That's a different feeling, man. It's cool to play for a club and represent a city or a state, but to represent the whole country it's inexplicable.
Yeah, and you played for a couple of clubs there. You won a couple championships. You were the MVP one year. You were like the Steph Curry of the Mexican League, no?
Well, you know what, man? When I did that interview, I think that kind of got misconstrued. Like, he asked me what it was like playing in Mexico, and I kind of just like alluded to the fact, when Steph Curry comes to town, people are coming out. People are buying tickets to those games. And that's how it was for me in Mexico when I played for Monterrey. When Monterrey was coming to town, the games were sold out. So I can't shoot the ball like Steph, but that's what I was pretty much trying to say.
I've called some of your G League games when you were playing with Santa Cruz. You stood out immediately to us. We were like, this kid has a future in the NBA, and here you are. Those G League days, though, they are tough. What are those things? What are those days like?
For me, man, I think I was lucky. I was in a really great situation. I came in on that team as a tryout player. And by the end of the season, I was starting for that team. So it allowed me to, really raise the bar and really approach my work in a different way. It was worth it for me.
Yeah, no question about it. And you wear the number 95. Why?
That's a street I grew up on.
What is it like for you to be one of the only Latino players in the sport?
It's a lot of fun. I love being Mexican. Sometimes I get bothered that me being Mexican overshadows me also being half black, but at the end of the day, I am who I am and I know who I am. There's so many people that reach out to me every day, telling me that I'm their inspiration. People messaging me on Instagram telling me that everybody's talking about me in Mexico. That's really cool. And I know my grandpa's super proud, man. Me and my grandpa are really close. I know he can go back to Mexico and kind of pat himself on the shoulder, I'm his grandson, and just be proud. So that's the most fulfilling thing for me.
You're a unique path for sure, but now you're playing on the big squad and you've been playing with them for a minute now. What is that like, playing with Steph, playing with Draymond?
I've been on a lot of teams and they really stand out as leaders to me. They're vocal, they're very helping. And, they're going to pick you up when you're down. I just soak it all in, man. And, I don't take it for granted. I actually had a conversation with Draymond the other night. He and I have become pretty close over the past few months. Honestly, when I first got here last year, I didn't know if he liked me or not because he never really talked to me. So I would always just kind of like try to stay out of his way. But now, our relationship is really grown. Steph's the same, man. Sometimes you don't know if Steph like you either, and it's the opposite because Steph's just such a nice guy. He's nice to everybody, so it's kind of like I don't really know if you really like me or you just nice to everybody, you know?
I know that obviously Oakland is near and dear to your heart. You spent some time this summer out there getting people together as far as social justice was concerned, organizing, and your teammates joined you. Steph was out there, Clay was out there, a lot of your teammates were out there. What did that mean to you to have them out there in the neighborhood you grew up in?
I only played 13 games and then COVID happened, so I hadn't really established myself as, you know, a part of the team. It's one thing being on the team, but it's also another thing being a part of the team, being a part of the culture, you know, having relationships with your teammates. And so it made me feel a part of the Warriors. I didn't ask them to come out. You know, they came out on their own. I got a lot of respect for those guys. I told Steph, you know, I'll run through a wall for you, man.
Before I let you go, you know, every Latino deals with this. Are you Juanito? I just want to know. Were you Juanito growing up?
Yes, I was Juanito growing up. A lot of my friends call me Nito for short. I'm a grown man. I don't really like Juanito no more, so Juan is cool.
Well, listen, Juan, I call you Juan, but I'll tell you this. I'm 43, and, you know, Mom still calls me Jorgito. So, you ain't going to ever escape that from the Latino family.
Yeah, that's
man.
different, though. That's your mom, though. Your mom get a pass for everything.
Yeah, for sure, man. Hey, listen, thank you so much for hanging out with us, man. We really appreciate the time. Best of luck to you. Stay healthy, stay safe, and thank you again.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure being here.
All right, man. Thanks again to Juan Toscano Anderson there.